Today, I want to talk about what's been on my mind lately because I just found out about maybe 24 hours ago that there's something called Peter Pan syndrome, right? Or being a man child. And for me, it doesn't necessarily it doesn't hit my ego, but I know some things do apply to me when it comes to being a man and still having childlike ways. Now, I consider myself to be a relatively mature individual for my age, and there's one thing in particular that is still childlike in nature that has been holding me back for the past 4 years, I'll say. And it's something very subtle. Some people are better at it than others, but for me, this is my expectation of reality, not necessarily my imagination, because everybody needs imagination. Everybody needs a vision for the future. But for me, it was expecting the results too fast, expecting the results to conform to, expecting reality to conform to the results of my imagination. And, a part of growing up, a part of maturing, and a part of um, taking responsibility for your future is understanding that things aren't going to happen on your time, regardless of how you expect them to play out. Your expectations are just guardrails, they're not the end all be all. And, you know, you can't rush anything. All you can do is just simply fall in love with the process. And I know that sounds so cliche, but when you understand that whenever you do start that business, you can't force yourself to make 10K within the first 30 days or the first 6 months, right? That happens as a byproduct. Same with your body. You can't drop down your body fat percentage from 16% down to 10% in 90 days just because your imagination wants you to. Yes, you can work hard, but that's the only thing you are in control of. You're in control of the things that you eat. You're in control of the music that you listen to, the podcasts that you watch, the people you surround yourself with, the environments you put yourself in, right? But as far as um me, simply for an example, when I had started wholesaling the first time, I thought that it would be quicker as far as getting the money because I heard, and I think this was partly um on the mentors of the people who advertised the results of wholesaling. But then again, I'm my own person. I'm an adult. I gotta realize like that's just advertising. But basically, they were talking about how you can get your first deal in 60 to 90 days and things like that. And that sounds very appealing, especially to somebody who's feeling stuck, right? If you say 30, 60 to 90 days and I can get this result that I've never had before, why wouldn't I want to pursue it? And pursuing it because you hear those numbers isn't bad in itself, but it becomes bad when your imagination runs wild and you feel like you failed because you haven't made it in that time or within that time frame. And I think that's very detrimental to your psyche. Um, Another example is a lot of teens fresh out of high school, maybe 18, 19, they feel like they're behind in life because they're still staying with their parents at 21, 22. Um, but that's where their imagination or society feels like that's where they should be. But that's not always how reality plays out because there's many different factors to why you make the decisions that you make and why you're in the position that you're in. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's bad, but like I said, having imagination is key. Everybody needs an imagination. Everybody has an imagination, but trying to force your imagination to become reality within a certain time frame is very toxic. But like I said, it's subtle. You don't realize it until